check over here. I know all this appears right now once we are going live.
Yeah, it's like behind
Yeah,
the scenes on.
yeah, here we are. And okay. All right, so we are live here with educators drinking coffee. Hopefully y'all can hear me all right. I got a little bit of an echo here. This morning, I do have a good friend of mine. She's an educator, and her name is Susana Lopez. I'll let her introduce herself.
Good morning. Like Juan said, I am Susana Lopez-Hodges and a former Greene County teacher and Duplin County teacher as well. So had my share of teaching up in the north and then relocated back to Costa Rica 3 years ago. So I've been back here for a little while now.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love Costa Rica. I've told you that's where me and my wife went for a honeymoon. We survived an earthquake. It wasn't in Costa Rica. It was in Nicaragua. And that's a whole nother story for another day. And then we stayed at La Fortuna, beautiful town, just on the outskirts. And that volcano erupts every day, and that freaked us out a couple nights. And you can actually see the lava rocks and stuff falling. So I mean, it's like the real deal. So the locals are like, but we're like freaking out.
I'm like, whatever,
Me and my wife are like that movie Earthquake, just ready to just get on something and get our butts out of there.
Well, it's like hurricane season up in Carolina. I mean, you're prepared for it anytime, you're prepped. That's the only difference. But tremors around here, it's almost an everyday thing. And so you get used to it.
Yeah. And we had, that earthquake was a big tremor where we were. Anyways, but so we're here with Susana. She is, like she mentioned, an educator down in Costa Rica. And speaking of that, actually, I did start, I don't think you noticed, but I did start with a different mug, but now I switched to this one. And I believe you gave me this one. I'm almost positive. Because I don't know where else I would have gotten it, because I know it's not as old as, it's not 15 years old.
Yeah, it's been a while since that. Yeah, but yeah.
But I'm again drinking the coffee. It's actually, I've been touting this one this week. It's called La Florida.
Oh, what a coincidence, Mr.
Yes, and your shirt.
What a coincidence.
That's right. That's right. That's
been, we couldn't. This was intended.
Yeah, we couldn't have planned it any better. So, but this actually comes just from the outskirts of Medellin. Medellin itself is not known for growing coffee. Now, the department where it's located. Buenos días, madre. My mom says hi.
Hi, saludos a tu mamá. Qué
bella. But it's, Antioquia, which is a department of Medellin, is okay. It does grow coffee. But La Florida is actually just on the outskirts, with Medellin is really not typically known, but it's really good. It's really, I keep saying it's very smooth, and I gotta think of more adjectives to talk about coffee in the future, but it is. It's very good.
You should try and find some Costa Rican coffee down there, and you know that you can actually buy it online and get it delivered. So Amazon.
Yeah. I did do a little research. I did find that Costa Rican and Colombian coffee are very similar.
And we're very
competitive. The research says. It does say Colombian coffee has a little bit more floral taste to it, which I am not that much of a connoisseur of coffee to really notice it. So, and if it's anything like Colombia, then we both our home countries generate very good coffee.
Yes, they do.
I think I'm going to actually dedicate like one day next week to talk about coffee and different things and forget about education. We also need a break from just talking about education. And actually, speaking of that, I meant to have a little light here because I have a light right above me. I don't have like the nice natural light that you have. So the light that I have about me, on top of me, really shines on my top of my head and shows how bald I'm going. So I've been trying to let my hair grow for my youngest daughter. She says, I've never seen you with hair.
Bless her heart.
It's been tough. I got big, well, you can't see, I got so many gray hairs, but I got long sideburns. Anyways.
Let's not talk about that.
So we're here with Susana. I just want to talk really about her experience, knowing with an educator like yourself who has taught here in the U.S. and now is teaching back home in your native country there in Costa Rica, and talk a little bit before we go about maybe the setting that you teach in.
Well, it was a big change for me, basically because I went from public education to private education back in Costa Rica. I had done private education, actually only private education, before I went to the States back in 1999, a few years ago. And then when I came back, I did do a couple of trips back and forth because I had a work visa to begin with and then eventually got married. But in that lapse, I would come back and I would teach again, but I'd only do private school. It's hard to get into public school system here, very hard. As a matter of fact, I've been trying for the past 3 years to get into the public system. And in spite of my academical background and my experience, it's not the same. And unfortunately, sometimes it is who you know and who you don't know.
It feels like it's almost the opposite here. You know what I mean? I mean, it's sometimes I feel like it's harder to get into a private school. Oh, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, sorry, something popped up on my screen.
I'm like, no, I'm sorry.
You got something weird that hasn't popped, but it seems like here it might be a little. Oh, Miss Harrison from Greene County says good morning.
Oh, hello, Miss Harrison. Oh my God, Miss Harrison.
Yeah.
I gotta go get my laptops and everything.
yeah. You make sure you have everything. But sometimes I feel like it's harder here sometimes to get into a private school because a lot of people once they get in there they don't want to leave. And public schools right now we're in such a shortage that we welcome anybody, and so.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of people trying to get into the public system here. With the private system, you go through interviews, not like the ones I went through in the States, though. Mm-hmm. They look, more at your, I don't know, it's just a little bit different. I'm lucky in the sense that I went back to teach at my alma mater, so I'm working where I graduated from.
Okay.
So they knew me from way back then because there's still some people there that were there when I was there. I actually taught with some of my high school professors, and it was, oh Lord have mercy, Don Carlos is still here. I'm like, he was a little bit mature when I was a student, and he's still here. But in the past 3 years, they've retired. So it's been different. My groups up in Carolina were small because I was doing Spanish for native speakers and ESL. So my classes were small. So my classes are a little bit bigger here, but it's different. Parents are a lot more demanding. They are 100% there most of the time. Yeah. And how can I say this? Their kids are so perfect, they can never get nothing or anything less than 100. So.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I guess, when you pay, the same thing here in the U.S., when you pay, there's a level of accountability that's raised because, hey, I'm paying for my kid's education. What are you telling me he's not passing or she's not passing?
Well,
as the parent, they feel, hey, that's not me.
Yeah, so. But I mean, when you have, I've been around the block for a while. So when you compile evidence, it's like, whoop, you're asking me about your child. Here you go. Yeah. And it's like, oops, sorry, Miss Lopez.
But documentation.
A lot of the stuff that I learned up in the States, things I used to do here, but not as, as intense as I was asked to do back in the States. So those are good teachings that I had back from up north, and I brought them here. And so it's been helpful. It's been helpful, especially now with the way things are.
Yeah. Now that you say that, I want to kind of maybe transition a little bit to that because you and I had a discussion last week about, for us, the transition was made March 13th. I want you to kind of tell us a little bit about that for you, when it was, and a little bit about how that day went, because I think it's very interesting.
Yeah. For us, at least where I work at, it was interesting. We had learned of 2 cases in the country. I mean, that week of the second week of March, we had learned that there were 2 possible positive cases. It was just the beginning of it. And that I think we found out on a Monday. The country found out on a Monday. It was Wednesday, March 11th. We had our first 2 classes. We were going to go on break. And then we had an emergency message sent to us by the principal. And she was like, we have an emergency meeting, staff meeting, ASAP, as soon as everybody goes out on break, and everybody meet in this class. So, we all showed up and we're like, this is a little weird, and I work in a Catholic school, so the friar came in, and when he comes in, we're like, okay, big guns have shown up. There's something wrong. We're like, and he showed up, and but the high school principal was the one that talked, and she was like, well, ladies and gentlemen, it seems like we have had a positive case showed up in one of the parents in preschool. And so, like, there's preschool, elementary, and high school. So given the fact that the parent had showed up at the school and had been in contact with kids and with the teachers and stuff, they immediately locked us down. So it was send everybody home as soon as you can. And so it was March 11th, like I said, 10 o'clock in the morning. We came back from break. The kids were very concerned because they usually don't have their first break go for 20, 25 minutes.
Yeah.
We went for 25 minutes, and we went back into the class, and it was very, you're trying to just wrap your head around the idea of what's happening right now. And and then I currently, I'm like the English teacher for 7th graders, so you got all these little munchkins going like, Miss Lopez, what's going on? What's going on? And I'm like, okay, just relax. Just, I'm trying to stay relaxed.
Yeah.
Like, just relax. We're just being, we're going to take a little precaution, and we're just going to send you guys home. So we just need for you to get all of your belongings out of your lockers and for you to take everything home with you. And so that was how that day went. I was literally kicked out of the school before 12. And right before we were leaving, I was trying to teach 2 of the Spanish teachers how to use Zoom, because I had, I was very blessed to having had teaching experience online with Greene County. So, I had a lot of knowledge of things and apps and stuff. And I had already been teaching my kids how to use different apps. So I was already familiar with Zoom. And so the teacher, I told the teachers, there's a thing where you can do live chats and you can whatever. And they're like, teach me. So literally the last 15 minutes of me being in the school was teaching a couple of other teachers how to use Zoom. And then it was one of the administrators was walking. He's like, excuse me, miss, what are you still doing here? You need to go. I'm like, just give me 5 minutes. I'm just training the other teachers or the other classrooms. I just need for them to know. And that was my last day.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That is crazy because, you just start thinking about, okay, the way they, one person, has it, touches one person, and how quickly it spreads. And I can see.
I'm sorry. In our ministry, they had the call because I don't know how the word got out that the parent had been exposed. Now, and that he was supposedly positive by that time. To this day, I don't know if he really was, but I'm thinking that he was because the ministry of the health ministry came and they shut down the school. They locked that thing up, and then we had to go get it cleaned 2 weeks after that.
Yeah,
they
wow.
cleaned it all and stuff.
I'm going to say good morning to Mr. Harold. He's one of our TAs. Great guy. Stops by every morning, so I appreciate him. I think about, the anxiety with the kids, the unknown, and as an adult, and you guys are really put in a weird situation because here, when we have an incident, something like that going on, and this is very different, but a death, I do feel like the public schools is not the place to talk to your child about death, about that's almost for the parent. We leave it up to the parent, but I think you guys are almost left with no choice but somehow let them know that this is a serious situation. You don't want to scare them any more than they are. So good. Yeah, I actually got a note here that I guess we might have been off for a little bit. But I think we got back on. Probably when I got that message, but we're good. Hopefully everybody got to hear that or can see that. And then now, and I know you talked about training, and I guess we'll plug it. And I apologize because during all this, but what platform are you guys mostly using to try to?
Well, right now there's a system that it's our we call it Rica. It's a company that that's where we put in our grades and stuff like that. It's what was the name of the ones that we used up in Carolina? Power School.
Power School, yeah.
Okay, so it's our Power School. But
Okay.
besides, I did because of the training that I had previously in Greene County. I had already taught from 7th grade to 11th graders, which is what we have in high school. I had taught all those kids because they at some point had been my students to use Seesaw.
Yeah.
So it's very, for me, it's one of the best ones, and it's pretty friendly. And so my kids already knew how to do that. So they had already, learned how to upload and all these different things. And they're used to me sending links and stuff like that. So I had already gotten a couple of other teachers interested into using Seesaw. So I had already trained them in using it, and they were using it. And then when the other teachers found out, then I got, I had to do training sessions online with the teachers. The good thing was the kids already knew how to do it. Yeah. So it was just the teacher, behind it. So what I did is I was the co-teacher in many of the classes, trying to help the teacher get herself or himself situated. I also, we also used just, the Kahoot, the Quizlet, the quizzes, and all these different things, apps. But again, my teachers and I say my teachers, the teachers that I work with, I've found a lot of resilience when it comes to using technology here, in at least the school where I'm at. Other schools have no issues, but with my school being a little bit old school, I had a lot of issues. So it's, since I started working there, I've been just, going like, we need to move, we need to do that, we need to understand. And boom, there you go. Like literally 2 weeks before we got out, we were in the middle of our midterms. And for some reason, we couldn't have our staff meetings that we usually have during exam time, because our kids take the test and then go home. So our administrator had broken. She had twisted or sprained her ankle or something. So she wasn't at school. So I told her, I said, I'm the department chair of the department chair of the English program. So I'm like, hey, can I just go ahead and teach this? I know it's English, but can I just teach it to everybody? And she said, go for it. So I was doing trainings with teachers. And lo and behold, 2 weeks after that, the teachers had to use it in class. Now, we've had our struggles. I've had quite a bit of struggles, and teachers, panicking and calling, and it's like, this is not working. I'm like, okay, let me walk you through it, blah, blah, blah. So I'm currently looking for trainings online, because I, kind of got myself into that and love it. And we're having a hard time finding other people to do the coaching. So I'm one of the coaches.
Gotcha. You're the instructional now, the technology. That's cool. No, it's the reality is it's here to stay. The use of technology. A lot of us that are we say old school, and I'm sure somebody who's older than we are will say, well, you saying old school, grew up in the 80s, whatever. But I was born in the 70s, but I can't remember much of it.
I remember my elementary school. I do.
Well, I guess I remember briefly in Colombia, but it might have been 79 at the earliest when I was in first grade, back in Colombia, 1st and 2nd grade. But anyways, I think about, the other thing is, as you try to switch virtual, and I think this is the difference also sometimes between the U.S. system and, and other systems in other countries is, we're very fortunate here, at least as a student, to be provided the things we're provided. Now, you and I worked in Greene County where it was 1-to-1, at least from middle school on. But, you guys definitely probably don't have that ability. And I know in a lot of countries and back home in Colombia, they don't. They have to utilize their own devices, but that's the expectation. It's just like busing. I don't know how it is in Costa Rica, but I know in Colombia, like you have to provide your own transportation to school, or you can pay for busing. And busing it's kind of like those 60s VW little buses, small like that, and it fits maybe 7-8 people.
Ours are a little bit more modern.
Okay,
but I mean, like, I know the public system sometimes provides the buses, but I mean, it's just in the capital city. I mean, in the outskirts, and you don't. I mean, like in Guanacaste, Punta Arenas, in one of the provinces, no. It's either everybody walks to school, rides their bike, or just takes public transportation. Or sometimes, I mean, literally, just like in Colombia, here in Costa Rica, there are people that actually walk 2 or 3 hours to get to a school, to the private school. So that's one of the reasons of why I keep saying I want to work in the public system. I want to help, but it's not allowed to.
So we're lucky that the kids have now. That the issue that we ran into, we had the devices, but the connectivity is the issue. How did you guys? I mean, I know as you do this.
Well, in my school, I mean, I really nothing to complain about, except for a couple of parents who say, "Oh my God, I have 2 or 3 kids and I have to sit and help with the little ones, and I'm working from home too." So that's their issue. But here, for example, it's mandatory now and has been for the past 2 years because of some of my classes. I'm like, kids need to have computers. So the kids bring their own computers or their electronic devices, tablets.
Yeah.
And if push comes to shove, I let them use their cell phone. But in the public system, that's where there's just issues all over the place. Half of the, even the teachers here, public school teachers, don't have their own computers and don't have much. They don't even have, the government's not going to provide them with a computer either. So it's not like that. So, it's left to their own devices. So many of the teachers are going to the school and they're logging in from the library computers, and that's where they're doing their work. But of course, there's no connectivity. So in many of the houses, because we're there's very poor people around here too. So what teachers are doing here is that they're creating all these plans and they're having all these worksheets put together. So they go to the school, they make copies, and then they wait to see if the kid will actually show up or the parent will actually show up to go get their copies to do it. And then they give them links to, to days that the teachers are going to be logged on. Right now, some of the public system is going towards Microsoft Teams. So they've been training teachers in the past, I want to say 3 weeks, the public system teachers, how to use Teams. But you have a whole bunch of people who are not computer literate. So if the teachers can't do it, how is it going to get out there?
I was reading an article, I think, on Education Weekly, and it talked about throw away almost all the experience you have. Everybody's back to year one teaching. You're having to learn so much, and we all, like I've said this many times, that at best I was a good teacher, but at the beginning of my teaching career, probably just like as an administrator, just trying to stay afloat. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of us, or a lot of teachers this year, or since March, have been trying to do that. And that's why I think everybody, not why, but I think that's one of the many reasons why I think everybody is overwhelmed. It feels like we're working a lot more, is because we're not used to this. We're trying to figure out what's effective, what's not effective. And I think most teachers, and you may feel the same way, feel like I haven't been as effective as I should have been. You know what I mean? And that worries you, I know. It worries many teachers, and should all worry every teacher. But yeah, it's.
I tell you, as a matter of fact, yesterday or 2 days, I do live classes with my kids twice a week. I have 4 7th graders, 4 groups of 7th grade, for 7th grade groups. Let me go back. And so I do 2 days per group, but sometimes I have like 2 groups combined. So it was just, I went from having 9 periods a week with each one of the groups to only having 100 minutes with them. And that's counting that I have to add. The fact that I have to let them log into Zoom, there's a protocol for that. And, half of them are like, they go offline, they come back online. And so, oh my God, trying to do this, now, we're being asked to be more dynamic in our virtual classes. And I'm like, okay, how do we go about this? And it's like, okay, breakout rooms, which we can do in Zoom. So you go out there and you give them the activity to do for them to do it and then come back. It's, I told my principal all the lesson plans that I had, throw those out the window. I'm starting again from scratch.
Yeah.
We also have to, like here, we're used to having a midterm exam and a final exam. We have 3 trimesters a year for their school year. Our school year runs from the end of January to, let's say, first week of December. And so it's I'm I'm just trying to wrap my head around everything. And we were in the middle of the first trimester, got topped off right after our first exam, and it's like, now you have to do exams, Ms. Lopez. And we're like, what exams online? What? And so it's like, but you can't do an exam. So okay, so what are we gonna do? It's 35% of your grade. So now you have to do what we call a comprehensive project. I'm also part of the evaluation committee. So we had to study each and every one of the possible projects to be submitted to the kids before they actually did. So we gave back, I don't know how many projects, because we're trying to it's reading everybody everything. And I think I told you about this. Rubrics. Oh my God, people, if you have a training on rubrics, please let me know, because we are just, we're not used to this. And yes, like you say, it seems like it's more work, and it should be less, but we're having to devote more time to preparing everything for the kids. And what if this happens? And what if this happens? And so it's just been hard.
Yeah, and it's, I feel a big reason why things are so hard is because the inequities. I was yesterday, we were having a discussion with Sergeant Coffee from my school. And we did talk about, many times kids do have access to internet, but it's on the phone. And, sometimes you can create hotspots. And the reality is sometimes, like my cell phone, it's an iPhone, but I have it with Sprint. But the way my plan is, I can only do, I think, like 500 megabytes of hotspots. So that's going to go quickly nowadays. So my thing is, you can't expect, if you're trying to have this really deep, kind of project where you're really going to get in depth and a lot of rigor, to expect the kid to do the same quality work on a cell phone as if another kid who has a laptop. You know what I mean? Just because he has access to internet doesn't mean it's still equal now. There's still varying. Another thing that I don't know if this happens with the teachers, and I mentioned this, I am blessed to be able to have unlimited Wi-Fi at my house. You know what I mean? Just because maybe where I'm at now in my career and my income and stuff. But, beginning teachers are still, and how much, you don't get paid enough.
Oh, yeah.
And
really?
And, for the ones who you add a family where you have a couple kids in school, with all the finances, you may not be able to afford unlimited data. And now you're trying to juggle, 15 gigabytes between yourself who's working, possibly, 2 kids, and depending your spouse, he or she may also need internet. So there's a lot of inequities that all the way around. I think, we focus on the kids because, as we should, that they're a number one target, but we do have to think about, especially moving on. Let me quickly kind of transition to, so your school coming now, I think, are you guys starting the new trimester or just started?
Yeah, we started this past Tuesday.
How long does that go for?
I think now it's going to go, well, at my school, we supposedly have a month off for summer break. It's our vacation. So we used to have a full month off of July. That's when I took my trip up to Carolina 2 years ago, or last year was it. And now, we're going away with that. We're ditching that. So it's going to be 2 weeks, like a regular public school. And then they're still in the works of when we go back. Yesterday I did get news from my principal that they're going to try to, we're now slowly going to transition into sending kids back to the school, but they're only going to do core classes, and some of them, because like me, even though I'm a core class, I'm going to continue teaching online. They're not going to make me go, and they're just going to have the kids go twice a week to school on a shorter schedule, and the principal is looking more into the arts, music, and PE classes, because the kids really need it. Our kids really need it. And they're going, they're going to keep math as one of the classes. I don't think if Spanish or social studies, but they're still in the works of it, because in between classes, they have to reduce the sizes. We have around 19 or 20 kids per class. So now they're going to have to do like 10 and 10. And so like one class is in math and the other class is in Spanish. And then they're going to go to break, a longer break, because then the janitors have to come in and clean up the whole class, and then have the kids come back in, the other kids swap. Yeah. And then, so, and then on a reduced schedule, we are still trying to picture how this is all going to look. And so I just, I'm like, okay, I stay home. Thank you. I'll continue with my online class, because it's going to be crazy.
It is. From administrative perspective, it's, sometimes when you sit and you think about ideas of how we could return and do things, but there's so many things that have to go into place. Like, just quickly, right now we're on the works for graduation. And one thing, even though it looks like it's going to be one of those things where it's going to take place mostly outside, we still have to provide restrooms, because if they're stuck in their cars, they need to use the restroom. So how is that going to look like? Because every time, if we do a thing where
Porta-johns in the car,
but even porta-johns still need to be cleaned after somebody uses them, and that's even worse. Imagine getting that duty, literally.
I don't want duty. That duty. Yeah. Mm-mm.
So, it's those little things that as administrators we have to think about. And sometimes ideas at first sound really good, but once you have to get into the details of how you're going to try to manage that, because the reality is budgets are at a loss. You know what I mean? Every school district, whatever, is not having the same revenue, or the state's not getting the same revenue. So whatever is being split to the schools is not going to be the same amount.
Did I tell you that I got a pay cut?
Wow. See. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you're almost having to do more with less, of course, and possibly less staff, because that's just the way it is. Superintendents have to come up with unique ways to try to cover the cost. So I don't envy that. That's their pay grade. That's what they're paid for. But yeah, those things, and that's why it's important, I think, to have committees and include teachers and include parents and even students that are in your almost last years, because they've seen the whole progress, especially a school like yours. One thing that, and I don't know for future, I saw this, and this is just an idea when it comes to technology, because with some of our kids are very good with technology, and they can work things out that when you have the little issues. And I saw one school district, what they do is they have now, I don't know about doing this, but they have a class of technology, like Ms. Harrison, who stopped by. Mm-hmm. Like she would have a class, I think it was in this school district, she had, I think, the class, or throughout the day, I think she had this technology person had somewhere around 18 kids between 4 periods. And all these kids, I guess it was a small school, but they assigned 1 kid per classroom with technology. So whenever a teacher had an issue with technology during that period, these students would sit there and the teachers utilizing them. If they came up to any hiccups, the kids were there, and they've been taught the platforms and everything. And then now that they've gone remote, they've paired that student online with the teacher to help.
We didn't think about that before.
Me neither. I'm like, wow, that's taking advantage of the kids who really are into technology and can really, you do have to be careful, because they learn the system.
Sensitive information is being released too.
That's the thing. That's a thing like Power School, or like what the system y'all use. Definitely, kid could not have that. But if they are using, but that's the thing we have to be careful. Like Seesaw, we use something called Flipgrid, and it works. I know
I've used it too.
So, but stuff like Canvas too, where you can, and Google Classroom, where you can assign grades, that's where it becomes fishy to have a student, even though they're just there for the technology piece. But if they learn to manipulate it, that's where you're running into some issues. But again, initially sounds like a great idea, but then, as an administrator, you have to question, well, what if this, what if that? And then you're all excited by the end of the day.
Yeah, but again, there right now, we don't know what we're doing, many of us, and we are learning
It's
on the
everywhere.
fly. We're learning on the go, and just uh, everybody around the world is having these issues. We're all in this, and we're all going through this, and everybody's learning. And I mean, whatever you can come up with, maybe can be helpful to me, and likewise, and the other way around. So
And
that's
we all have to share.
sharing has become something very relevant. Facebook has been my ally now for I'm like Bitmoji crazy, and there's Bitmoji for everything, and I insert everything, and I use it as a backdrop in my classes, and it's something different for the kids, and so again, you have to find communities and have to look for what different ideas out there, and try to
Different. And then my recommendation has always been, find those 2 or 3 or even 4 things that you really can learn to do well, because you can many times get more things out of them and manipulate them in such a way they can get even more than what it's made for. And I think kids also buy in more when you know the system, because you can help them through. And when you're trying to muddle through it and they seem to know more.
Oh, trust me, those issues came at the beginning with Zoom. The kids would manipulate the teachers. Some of the teachers that are not tech savvy, they would go in there, manipulate the whiteboard and whatever. So I had to go down and crack down with a couple of other teachers. It was like, okay, this is what we're doing. Eventually, we acquired the Zoom educational license, so it's a lot better. But we're learning on the go.
Yeah, no, I hear you. So, but all right, we've kind of gone over our time, but it's been good conversation. So, Susana, I do appreciate it. I know you got a work day ahead of you. I do too. Actually, got a PLC coming up at 9. So
it is 2 hours. Right now it's only 6:30 in the morning here. So
thank you so much, and I hope all of you appreciate that. Susana was very nice to get up that early and be ready.
Early bird catches the worm. Here we go. A lot of work now.
But yeah, no, I do appreciate it. We have to do this again, maybe as we start getting to the other side where we feel like things are, we're in like phase 1 still here in North Carolina of reopening. So, Mr. Tripp, thank you for stopping by again. But yeah, it's good. It's good to get another perspective, see where you guys are at, in a few weeks, in a month or so. I'm going to continue to do this till the end of the school year. After that, I think I'm going to reduce. I do want to break myself. I'm trying to think. Today's the 20th. Okay, yeah, today's Wednesday. That's fine. I lose track of days too. I don't know if this happened. Why. Yeah. So, but anyways, I do want to thank you for joining me here with Educators Drinking Coffee. I'm pretty much to the bottom of the barrel here.
Anytime, me too. Time for break.
If I've ever said this, I love what you all say. It's just a one. Go ahead.
Commercial. When all this is over, please, anybody and everybody who wants to come down to Costa Rica and enjoy our beautiful nature is more than welcome. Following protocols, of course.
Yes, of course. And it's definitely, I encourage anybody. I said, if you've never been to a Latin American country, I'm Colombian, I'm all for Colombia, but I tell them if you want to take that first step, because it can be culture shock, go to Costa Rica. I said, some of the most friendliest people in the world live there. Yeah, Camilo, a friend of mine. But yes, it's wonderful people. I can't say good enough things about them. One of my best friends is from Costa Rica. He's actually half Russian, but he's from Costa Rica. But I love the country. It's a beautiful country. So anybody gets a chance, head down there. All right, Susana. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Juan.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and see you all tomorrow. Tomorrow's Thursday. I actually have Amanda Morris. She's a former PE teacher in Pitt County. She's now in Wake County. We're going to talk a little bit about PE and what she's been doing. She's also want to get her coach's perspective, because she is a volleyball coach, and she's been a track coach. So I want to see where she's at. I haven't seen her in a few years. So we'll see you tomorrow at 8. And 1 second.